producer Miles Dale, and from the cast, David Strathairn, Bradley Cooper, Richard Jenkins, and Rooney Mara. But there's somebody else who wanted to be here with us and did not let travel restrictions get her down. So joining us from London, where it's only 3:45 a.m., please welcome Cate Blanchett.
This is really horrible.
I like it. It's great to be here with all of you. Guillermo, to start off with, my understanding is that part of the reason this film exists is due to your very frequent collaborator and Bruno in this film, Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
My understanding is it was his idea. Can you talk us through that?
Many years ago, in 92, 93, I don't recall it, many pounds ago, Ron Perlman said we should try and adapt this. We were talking about Elmer Gantry, and he was talking about the beautiful job Burt Lancaster does. And Ron does a pretty mean Burt Lancaster imitation. And then he said, I would love to play a character. I am the only other character that has those sort of spiritual, charlatan, charming, carny guy. He said, or 10 revival, this character stands in Carlisle and Navaraldi. And I read the book, then watched the movie in that order. I thought the book was fascinating. We, of course, Ron turned out to know as much about the movie business as I did at 28. And we went to Fox, and Fox said, it's all ever entitled, get away from here. They didn't validate our parking even. and then many years later, the novel stayed in my mind, and many years later, Kim and I were looking for something to do together, and Kim said, what about Nightmare Alley? And I thought, well, that's fantastic, because we can do an exercise in complete freedom. No one's ever gonna make it, because it's absolutely, we knew the ending was gonna be brutal, we wanted to do this and that. And I said, it's a fantastic thing. We wrote it in complete freedom, and then we made it. Yes, but it was that.
Kim, as co-writer, how would you say you wanted to update or subvert the film noir genre with this?
You know, Guillermo and I have talked about this before, and when you watch a lot of film noir, so much has been subverted within film noir. I think there's a general perception that film noir is a certain way, and there's so many different types of noir. I mean, you could see Ulmer's Detour, you could watch Leave Her to Heaven. They're so different that I think that we weren't exactly trying to subvert it, would you say, Guillermo? We were just trying to, we were really watching a lot of pre-code pictures because this took place in the late 30s, early 40s. And so we were getting more about the language and the reality.
When we thought about it, we were thinking, let's do, noir to me is a really incredible, almost neorealism with brutality. Right? Like Il Grido, Antonioni's Il Grido, is almost half of Postman Always Brings to Mind. And we thought it's a literature of existentialism and have and have-nots. Yeah. And we thought this is the time to tackle it like that.
And a lot of the novels that we're reading, too, wouldn't just fit right in noir. Like They Shoot Horses, don't they? And of course, Nightmare Alley, in that tradition of American literature where it's hard-boiled, as you say, but there's much more to it. I think things get classified in genres too easily.
Yes.
And so we weren't thinking it exactly in that way.
Bradley, when I interviewed Kim and Guillermo for Turner Classic Movies, airing this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Guillermo and Kim brought up the term homme fatale instead of femme fatale, describing your character Stanley. Was that a conversation that you had, and what does that mean, Bradley, to you, an homme fatale in this film?
I have no idea.
we got that when I watched Born to Kill with Lawrence Tierney. I thought of him that way. Because those two go head to head. There's a bad guy and a bad girl, bad woman. excuse me. And so yeah, that's something that we were talking about. Bradley, you know.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Tell me about the very specific kind of cigarette education that you had to have in order to play this role, Bradley, because I understand you really had to learn how to hold a cigarette in a certain way.
I mean, it's just the work you put into believe that you're the character, right? And I just had the blessing of being able to work with so many incredible actors in this movie and I had the luxury of some time to prep. And then, you just put all the work in and just hope that something occurs and then you can just receive it and then stand just is there and then you can just sort of react to all these wonderful people.
Yeah, the day Stan materialized on the set, really, it was such, I mean, we were, he just came in. I mean, one day we were shooting part of the session with Lilith, and what we had is a learning curve that was fantastic. Bradley was always looking just for truth. And I started dialing back the camera style and said, normally I shot the first couple of days, I shoot no coverage, just little pieces almost to the second. And then I started letting the camera roll. And I started letting the camera move on a techno and stay on the actors and just stay on the actors. And we were supposed to do just a master. And we kept going. And all of a sudden, Stan came out and I said, keep shooting. We kept shooting and we covered the entire scene on that train. And we came out and we just were amazed. And that's the thing, constantly we were amazed. I would love to say everything happened to us. And that's the miracle, I'm 57, and this movie revealed to me things and ways of making film that I didn't know. And it's that partnership with all the actors, that discovery of truth before style. Respecting style as part of the storytelling, but finding those moments. It was beautiful.
Kate, it's so much fun to watch you as Lilith, the hair, the lip, the voice. I mean, you really seem to relish being a part of a film like this. It's the noiriest film I've ever seen you do. What was the fun of it for you?
Well, I think it's what Bradley was saying. I think it's working with the actors and all of my stuff, apart from a brief, lovely moment with you, Rooney, with Bradley in the office. But, my first point of connection was obviously wanting to work with Guillermo. And so when he comes to you with anything, you say yes. And then the character is secondary, in a way, to the experience of working with him.
The film, Bradley, is reminiscent of something like Double Indemnity. It's like what happens when the two most wrong people get together, right? It's like so wrong it's right, so right it's wrong. How would you describe what happens between Stanton and Lilith? Are they too right or too wrong?
Well, one gets what they want, don't they? And it ain't me.
Really? Boom! Which one?
I think you might get what you mean. You live. Another scar.
You want that?
You mean the main thing is he's just so lost, so he doesn't even know that that's somebody that's a match or anything. And he's just, like he says to her in the beginning, she says, what do I want? To be found out just like everybody else. That's just sort of what he wants, I think. And he gets it in the end. It's a happy ending for Stan. It is, actually, in an odd way. It really is.
Well, what we did discuss beautifully, and the movie revealed to us each time, it was the whole movie is a prologue for the last 2 minutes, really. And the most sacred act and most important act in everybody's life is when you reveal yourself to you, when you find out who you are. It's the most astounding moment of drama in every life. For some people, it happens in the last 2 minutes before they expire. For others, it is revealed in an opportunity, in an obstacle, in a relationship. And for us, it was about knowing Stan and loving Stan, not judging him. And then that moment of revelation, that final shot We were looking at it as the Mount Everest, and we talked to Miles, and the three producers agreed. We said, we're gonna carry that set through every week of shooting until we nail it. We're gonna shoot Tim Blake Nelson's side, and we're gonna shoot this side 50, 60, that whatever we need. Take one. Wow. Take one. And it's because we have. And what is moving is we didn't want to just stand. It's a big difference between the novel, the first version, and this. It's a moment that I think Bradley's playing so many chords, not playing, they're coming out of him. And one of them is relief. It's like the man that has committed many crimes and finally gets arrested. One of those things is relief. And when we finished the take, we came out and I was crying and he was crying. I went, one more? It's perfect. One more.
Did you do one more?
We did
yeah.
two more.
I did 3.
And then we said, eh.
And the one we saw was the first.
Number 1. Yeah.
Amazing. Rooney, I read an interview with Guillermo where he says that Molly is the moral center of this film, which seems very appropriate. What were the conversations that the two of you had in that regard, and how did that inform how you played her?
Oh God. I don't know. I can't remember. Guillermo, do you remember?
Yeah.
Did we have conversations about that?
What I think I can say about Rooney is the way she maps the character and the way she went at tracing Molly. We didn't want it an ingenue, and the past she has, and every character has a scar in this movie. And I think, we always marveled at how you approach every day. And all of a sudden, what happened is, I was watching a movie. I was watching reality. I was watching something happen. So I don't know how to answer that, because one is the thing that you declare what you want, and the other one you're given. And what you gave us is much more than that. Much more than that.
What was your way into her?
I think, God, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, hopefully, I have a good moral compass. Maybe, hopefully. But I don't know. It's weird. So we made this so long ago at this point, and we had to come back because of COVID, because the whole world shut down, and I had a baby in between then. So literally, like when we came back to finish the film, like I had an out-of-body experience. Like I can't even really remember it. It's like part of me wasn't there, and so it's such a weird thing to talk about. Like I don't fully even remember it.
When they chase each other on the train station, as Molly goes through the door, she has a baby.
Yeah.
She's pregnant, and she says, "Leave me alone, Stan." And the moment she enters the toilet, she has a baby. Because it's months later in a set.
You go into the bathroom.
Yes.
That's 6 months later, and she had a baby.
Rooney, for film lovers, it's impossible to watch a movie with you and Kate in it and not think of Carl, right? This is why, oh my God, when you called her a frozen-faced bitch, the love of your life, were you okay with that?
No, I hated calling you that.
I knew you were okay.
But Molly liked it.
Kate, will there be payback for that line?
Will it be back? Well, I wasn't on set that day, and I'm assuming it was about my character and not about me. So, yeah, no. Okay.
Richard, you are the most kind and decent man maybe that I've ever met, and it's so cool to watch you play a guy like Ezra who's so scary and so hairy. What was the joy of it for you?
Shut up, Dave.
It was very mean, very mean.
Yeah, it was, I didn't think of him as that mean, actually. Yeah, I just thought of him as somebody who needed forgiveness. And that's how I kind of went at it, and we really had fun, Guillermo was really cold, okay? I mean, it was really cool. But it was, great fun to play somebody who gets what they want.
Was there any part of you when Guillermo sent you the script and said, "I'm thinking of you for Ezra," that went like, "Hello, where do I show up here?" Because you made such a great impact in that last act.
Well, it's the actor thing, bullshit. And I went through a lot of pages before I No, I immediately, when he said, "Would you come along?" You bet. It's Guillermo. You love to.
But one of the things that is beautiful about the movie is it's constructed with three fathers. He goes through three fathers. Ezra being one. And as we reveal his truth, he goes to the violence. And three women, but illuminating him differently. But the thing, what he says is a man that needs forgiveness, and I think that's what we all need urgently, forgiveness. I mean, I think it's a character that hopefully you are following him one way as the victim, and there's that horrible turn when he says, "I hurt him," and you don't see it coming nor does a stab. But no character in this movie is just one color. They're all composites of many emotions and many positions as a human being should be, I believe.
David, Pete has a line that I think is memorable, which is, "No man can outrun God, Stan." When you think back to playing him and talking to Kim and Guillermo, what was most intriguing to you about the plot line that he was involved in, but also what he represented in the movie?
I felt that Pete, George was a guide to me. Because he was just there. And he could go nowhere else. That was his life.
Didn't you quarantine with George?
I tried to quarantine him.
You did?
Yes.
They wouldn't let me. I don't know why. But it would have deepened our relationship. But Pete just felt to me that he could live nowhere else, and he was at peace with his life there, and he was also quite aware that it was coming to a transition point. And he never had a son, but here comes a person who wanted some guidance. Guidance in whatever discipline, doesn't matter. It was a very touching moment where he asks me to teach him something. So I felt that if there was any kind of parental forgiveness in the film, Pete was that potential. And Guillermo he kept pushing me to be darker. And we got there in that moment of the God moment. And I'm glad, because Pete had a realization. That was his epiphany, that he'd never told everybody. And he needed to tell somebody that. And here was the opportunity. And it was kind of his gift that he could give to this wandering soul, as much as he had been a wandering soul too. I mean, they all are in the film. And there's an interdependency in that family, community, which is in contrast to how eccentric and individual they all are. So there's a really wonderful dynamic in that way. But I just felt Pete was there to kind of be a parent.
Miles, when you think back to this production, just from a logistical standpoint, what was the biggest challenge that comes to mind?
Continual trauma, I would say, from COVID. I mean, it started beautifully. I mean, we had this green cast. I mean, really the best that has ever been assembled in my lifetime. I think Guillermo feels the same way. And so it was kind of fantastic when we started. And we got about 6 weeks in. Kate luckily snuck off with all her work done, congrats. And I remember we were in Buffalo shooting, and Rooney and I were standing in the lobby of this building and just talking. She says, "What do you think about this COVID thing?" And I'm trying to be the optimistic producer and saying, "Well, we're keeping our eye on it." A week and a half later, we're standing in Grindel's Garden for the 4th time, freezing our asses off, and the NBA shuts down and the NHL shuts down, and the next day we went into the studio and we just said, "Well, in all good conscience, we can't really continue." We called, the studio and Searchlight. They were very supportive. But, we deal with problems all the time, and we deal with safety in a way. But when something you can't control sneaks up with you like that, we had to stop. We were getting anxious, and so we did stop, and everyone scattered to the winds. And of course, putting this group back together, these actors are all very much in demand and had other projects behind it, but everyone was incredibly committed. So, I spent the summer in what I call producer medical school, figuring out what to do, and then of course, you've got to think about, society at large and stuff. We don't want to get ahead of public health and take PPE and testing that everyone else may want, so you think about those sort of ethical concerns as well. But really, it was just getting prepped to come back safely, where we could not only, have a safe set, but have people feel good about it, have it be creative still, and we were able to do that. And it was about 6 months to the day. And, the blessing of that really was that we were able to, Guillermo took the material, and we were able to edit, have another look at the script, and I really feel like that breath gave us something. And so, making lemonade out of what the universe gives you, like, we really did that. So, we played the cards that we were dealt, and we did them, the best we could. But it's everyone else had big problems, and we're just making movies. But when we were able to come back, it was a relief, because looking at this movie, you can see it would have been a terrible shame to lose it. To have it right in your hand and then to have it blow apart would have been, the regret of a lifetime. So we're just grateful.
But it also makes you realize. Look, in the tragedy of the dimensions of a pandemic, and at the same time you have the responsibility of keeping the business and the families alive and working, and then you yourself think, what a privilege and what a blessing it is to be able to tell stories. It is, and to tell them in a manner that allows you to be artistic and human and alive. And it's a blessing. You're very grateful for that.
I have time for a few more questions. Kim, as someone who watches a lot of film noir for my job and notices a lot of men slapping a lot of women in these film noir classics.
Dan Duryea.
Yeah, Dan Duryea made a career out of it, as my colleague Eddie Muller says. I definitely took note of Molly slapping Stan in this film. What was behind that decision?
I like that you think I thought of that.
That was my idea.
No, but we did discuss, what is her final monologue, and we said, this is her final monologue. Just shut up.
Have you done a screen slap before, Rudy?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think probably a couple of times.
And have you received one like hers?
Well, she really hit me. Yeah, that was real hit.